Greetings, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the September Honors Roundtable on Innovation and Creativity. This is September 14th, 2021, and my name is Marc Hnytka. Today, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning, something that is becoming increasingly important and discussed in a variety of industries and ways of implementing this technology to hopefully better society and humanity and make the world a better place. We do these roundtables usually monthly, although we also hold other types of events on a monthly basis, and we have other honors activities and events that we curate and send out to all of the honors students and also students who qualify for the honors program but perhaps have not yet enrolled. So actually, I would love if you would type in the chat whether you're currently enrolled in the honors program or if you are here because you are interested in potentially enrolling in the honors program. Awesome. Stephanie is here and in the program. Bill just got accepted. Congratulations. Glad to have you, Bill. And we'll, at the end of the presentation and the end of the discussion session, I will have some information for those of you who are not yet enrolled in the program or those who are watching this recording and interested in learning more about the honors program at UAGC. So to start, I wanted to get a sense of how familiar you are with artificial intelligence and machine learning. And I have a poll here. It will be anonymous if you want to enter, if you're very familiar, somewhat familiar, a little familiar, or not at all. I'll give it just a moment so hopefully everybody can respond. Great. Wow, it looks like we've got some, at least everybody's a little bit familiar, and we have some people who are quite familiar. Thank you for completing that poll. So, and forgive me, my background is not in computer science or artificial intelligence. I consider myself an amateur enthusiast. I really enjoy keeping up with what some of the current news and technology and applications are of artificial intelligence. So this is purely based on my own knowledge and research, which is not that of an expert level, but more of a, as I said, an amateur enthusiast. So what is artificial intelligence? The broadest definition is that it is a way of solving problems that is not of human or animal origin. So it is something that we have created, that being the artificial. Usually this refers to computer components, computers that are running software or even hardware that mimics intelligence in terms of solving problems. A lot of this is algorithms, which are just complex sets of instructions of, if this happens, then do this. And that is kind of the foundation of computer programming, is these logical codes that are what make up computer programs. And artificial intelligence is at least in part and originally based on complex algorithms that can help solve problems sometimes more effectively and faster than humans. But for at least the recent history, they've been relatively narrow in that they can solve certain problems very well. But if you ask them to do something that is outside of the scope of their programming, they can't address that, where humans are, we are what is known as the general intelligence, in that we can approach new problems and at least start to reason through and solve those problems, whatever can be thrown at us. Not that we'll solve every problem or that every human can solve every problem that's thrown at them, but we all have the capability to learn and grow and address a variety of complex problems. And many other life forms have this problem solving ability, including animals in their own respective ways to survive and thrive on this planet. And then there's something that's relatively new, I would say, in the last 5 to 10 years called neural networks, which is a new way of creating artificial intelligence and problem solving that mimics the way that the human brain works, where you have many different nodes and signals can travel through different pathways to the different nodes to process information. That's the way that our brain works, with neural cells and neurons that send signals across a vast network and web of neurons that allow us to function as humans and process thoughts and solve problems and process information. So neural networks are a relatively new way of creating artificial systems that can address problems in a similar way that human brains process problems and information. So that's something that we are seeing more of when it comes to artificial intelligence. So how many of you have heard, if you want to raise your hand or type in chat, I think some of you are very familiar with these things. So Moore's law is this idea, and it was a computer scientist whose last name was Moore. And it's not a law in the sense of the law of gravity, or it's basically a theory that uses past information and came up with this idea that the computational processing power, or the number of circuits and complexity of circuits, roughly doubles every 24 months. And we've seen that throughout a good bit of the last few decades, but it's actually slowed down a little bit. I believe the current number is 30%. I think 30% annual increase in computing power, which is still very significant. And some computer scientists are wondering if we're approaching a limit to that, because there are certain physical laws about what you can do and fit onto a certain substrate medium, like silicone, which the chips are. You can only get so small, although there's lots of really interesting stuff in terms of getting down even to an atomic level, where you have data being recorded as individual atoms on a surface, or how small you can get these circuits and transistors and pathways on chips. There's a lot of material science that is going into that. And then there's another thing that we won't really get into, but that is, at the top of the screen here, you can see, originally we had mechanical computational systems where, you might actually have gears and wheels. The first computer, if anybody's ever seen the movie, I'm totally blanking on it now, with Benedict Cumberbatch, about Alan Turing, The Imitation Game. That's the name of it. It's a really great movie. It's Alan Turing invented a mechanical machine to decode the Nazis' encoded messaging system, and it relied on wheels and mechanisms that basically turned to calculate the data. And that's the way that computers worked, in their early stages up until the 30s and even into the 40s. And then, technology improved, and we had vacuum tubes, and then transistors. And now in the current age of, sometime in the early 70s till today, we have integrated circuits, which are usually on silicone and are, you have to view under a microscope, because they're the pathways and circuits are so fine. But then there's this new computing technology that is also coming into play, which is quantum computing, which is based on kind of very different principles, and current quantum computers are very expensive and require a lot of energy and expertise to maintain and run, but they are exceptionally, like orders of magnitude better at solving complex optimization problems right now than any other existing computer technology that we have. So there are some theories that quantum computing, as it becomes more developed, might continue this trend of computational power increasing into the future. So since we have some knowledgeable people, does anybody know who this fellow is? Any guesses?
Hasbro?
Yes. Was that Edward? Thanks for joining us, Edward.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Also, I just want Stephanie asked, would automation be categorized under AI? So automation can go hand in hand with AI. Artificial intelligence can allow things to be automated, for instance, but sometimes not necessarily. Like automation can be also just a series of instructions, like in a car factory where an automatic welder might come in and weld different components of the car together. It's not really solving a problem so much as it is going and repeating the same function over and over again. Now, there might be some things where there are some machines that like sort, for instance, like coffee beans or different agricultural products based on size, or they look for color characteristics, and that can use AI software in terms of translating the vision that is being taken in to making very split-second decisions about whether to reject something or include it. So that would be an automated process that also relies heavily on AI to make decisions about what to do with something. So they can go hand in hand, but they're not necessarily the exact same thing. Yes, this is Gary Kasparov. And for those of you who remember Gary, he was considered to be the greatest chess player of his era and possibly still one of the greatest chess players alive today. And in 1997, it was the first time that a grandmaster, like one of the top ranked chess players, was beaten by a computer, which was Deep Blue in 1997. And this was a big deal. It was something that people had thought was going to happen eventually as computers got more and more advanced. And this Deep Blue was basically like a mainframe computer. I think it was like bigger than a person, probably weighed hundreds, if not 1,000 pounds or more, and required a substantial amount of energy. But it was basically running the numbers, crunching the numbers about each move and every possible move on the chessboard, and then making the best possible decision and beat Gary Kasparov in this match. But what people and computer scientists realized at the time was that chess has relatively a limited number of moves because each piece can only move in a certain way. There's pretty limited rules, and there's certain moves that you usually wouldn't make because they're just inherently bad. So it's something that you can make a very complex algorithm to figure out. And if you have enough computational power, based on the current state of the chessboard, you can calculate out all those moves and the potential outcomes relatively easily with just kind of what they call brute force computational power. But there is another game, and for those of you who follow this stuff, there's a game called Go, which is an ancient game, I think originating in China, of basically white and black pieces on a grid, and you place the pieces one at a time, taking turns at the intersections. And there are rules about surrounding and capturing your opponent's pieces, and then also controlling zones of the board. So if your pieces create certain patterns and borders, then you essentially zone off and get points for that part of the board. Well, there are infinitely more, not infinitely, but close to infinitely more possible moves in Go than there are in chess. So computer scientists in 1997 said, well, it's going to be decades or longer before, or possibly never, that a computer can computationally beat a grandmaster at a world standing level at Go. But just a few years ago, Google, with their DeepMind learning computer and I think based on neural networks, developed a program that would play many different games of Go, and essentially learned over time, because Go players will often say that you develop, after playing for years and decades, you develop an intuition about where the best moves are. There are certain moves and strategies that become known over time, but there's very much an intuitive sense, which is your inherent complex processing and understanding of the game that is hard to quantify. But Google's AlphaGo program not only beat the best player, Lee Sedol, beat him in the first matchup when Google first invited him to play, beat him, I believe, 4 out of 5 times, which was pretty significant. Like him playing against another very highly, top 3 ranked, you would see a significantly more, it might go 3-2 decision in Go. And then after AlphaGo defeated Lee Sedol, Google DeepMind actually came up with a new program that never played a human player in learning the game. It only played previous versions of itself. And I believe that was called, Go Zero, I believe. But this version only played other artificial intelligence versions of Go players, and it became so good that it beat the AlphaGo in 100 matches, and AlphaGo 1-0. So this machine learning that learned only from playing other machines in Go became extremely significantly better than pretty much any human player in existence. And so much so that when human masters and people who are intimately familiar with Go watch these matches play out, either between a human and an AI Go player or between 2 advanced AI Go players, they see moves and patterns of play that had never been done or seen before in the 1,000 years of history of Go that had been recorded. So these artificial intelligence, these machine learning systems are coming up with innovations and becoming more skilled, still at a very narrow, this is a game, it has set rules and a relatively limited scope. But in this way, and even in these types of intuitive learnings, AI systems can become extremely like orders of magnitude stronger than humans at accomplishing these tasks at a high level of achievement. So I just wanted to move into this next question. If you want to unmute and talk or type in chat, can you think of artificial intelligence applications in your field of study, your major, or your current work or industry that you work in? I would just like to hear what kinds of things, and this maybe you have some good, you have some solid ideas or examples that you know of, or maybe just brainstorming like, oh, this is a way that AI might be used in my industry.
Well, I'll go. So I'm in banking. I work at a large bank, and of course, we're trying to be on the cutting edge of technology. And quantum computing is one thing that they're researching, which that's the really scary thing to worry about, because that can break all technology as we know it now if people use it the wrong way. But also, IBM Watson has created some AI agents which will respond to people's questions online, and can even do phone conversations with recorded voice and everything, which is amazing because you don't need a specialist there to do it. And they can handle a lot of things that specialists would be routine to them. And it saves a lot of money for the specialists and the company as well. And it makes a better experience for the customer also. So those are kind of 2 things that are out there now.
Awesome. Yeah. So you were saying that quantum computing could break.
Yeah, so the way that quantum computing works, it deciphers codes a lot faster than normal computers to,
Right.
the tens logarithmic multitude, which is huge. So right now it would take a couple thousand years for us to break encryption because it is 162-bit. For a person to do it with a normal computer, multiple computers, they're predicting that once quantum computing figures out how to do it, it's not going to take that long. It could take like a year, if that. So
Wow.
something to worry about.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Bill. Derek, I see you unmuted. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick, guys. I work in human resources. I work for a big company. I work for Target, and we have a lot of different systems for our team members to be able to communicate with our phone system. It's AI automated. They can ask questions. It'll walk them through it. We also have tutorials on the internet as well, like an assistant Watson, if you will, for them to be able to get everything answered before actually connecting to a live representative. We're trying to make it as easy as possible with the demand of not having actual live agents available, but yet having setting up the environment, the milieu for associates to be able to get their questions answered and route them in the right directions at a quick amount of rate of time with the most amount of satisfaction.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Derek. So yeah, it's really cutting down on the work and maybe getting more clarity, it sounds like, in helping customers by using this information and these artificially intelligent systems to help get customers the information that they need more efficiently. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Hi guys, I'm Sharon. I just want to piggyback off of what Derek said. It's funny because the answer is yes and no. My job, I work for State Farm, and it wasn't until someone hit my car, and they had a different insurance company, and I called them. I'm a claims adjuster, and the person who hit my car had Geico or whatever. I called and I spoke with a bot the whole time. Never a human, not one time. My whole entire job was done faster, more efficiently. And it honestly left me with a good experience because it was so easy. And from a customer standpoint, I thought, dang, that was awesome. But since how this is what I do for a living, I knew that my days were numbered. So that's actually what made me get back in school and kind of start getting together. So that's why I said yes and no. I know it's in my field, it's just not at my job as of now, but they're definitely knocking at the door.
Thanks for sharing. Yeah, and that's something that we'll talk about a little bit later in the presentation, is that obviously there are a lot of powerful and potentially positive impacts and results of using this AI technology, but there are also challenges and downsides, including potentially replacing certain jobs with artificial intelligence systems that, like you said, can do things very efficiently and cost effectively. But what does that mean for all of the workers that will be displaced? How do we figure out how to get them into other forms of employment or ways to derive satisfaction from their life? Stephanie, I see you unmuted. Do you want to share?
I was going to share, very similar to Sharon. I work in healthcare technology, and I'm currently studying instructional design, so facilitating and training. I feel the same way. I feel like my days are numbered as well, because so many things can be done in terms of delivering training, delivering content through AI. So I hope to get into the field of designing content that is automated in some way, shape, or form, so that I can still focus in that area, because I do think that face-to-face, in-person training, even through the pandemic, we lost a few trainers because we're doing virtual training, so we don't need as many trainers. So I definitely feel the same way. My days might be numbered.
Thank you, Stephanie. Does anybody else want to share before we move on? Thanks for responding to the poll as well. Is it Uni?
Hey, Mark, I just want to say this has been a great dialogue so far. Like, this is really, like, I'm really engaged in this, like, hearing from some of my, peers. jobs are on the line, and this is really great. So thank you for hosting this.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the kind words, Derek, and thank you for coming and being part of the conversation. Is it Uni, or I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but I saw you unmute. Did you want to share something? If you're trying to talk,
Yes.
Go ahead.
It's Uni. I work in healthcare. I work in a large hospital system in New York City. We have about 10 hospitals, and we do use AI with our service desk because my team supports the laboratory systems, and we used to have a delay that used to be several days before tickets reach our team. And those are critical because doctors are waiting on results from our systems in order to properly treat a patient. And now that we have the mechanism where a user can chat, tickets are routed to us within minutes, and my team responds to everything and tries to solve things within 30 minutes. And the other thing that I have noticed in my hospital, instead of having regular employees deliver linens to inpatient floors or to clinics, we have robots, we have tubs. And a lot of people were afraid that they would lose their job. But what my employer did, they focused on training that staff population. And now they're in charge of programming the tubs, of troubleshooting and doing other things within the organization. So I feel that we can't be afraid of AI within like our day-to-day lives, embrace it and see how we can further train and learn to then like move on and keep things moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Uni. Yeah, those are some great examples. And I really like that your employer was really focusing on their people and their workers and making sure that they weren't left out or not integrated into this new paradigm of AI and robotics and automation that is, as we've heard, making a lot of improvements in a lot of these areas. Anyone else want to speak? All right, we'll move on to the next slide. So this is some kind of broad, I think a lot of you touched on these areas, business applications, human implications, predictive models, recognition methods. So AI is doing a lot in terms of visual image recognition. That's now, you can take a picture of something and you can run it through a visual neural net basically program, and it can identify plants, it can identify animals, it can identify objects. It's very quickly evolving to where it can get very close to human levels of recognition in terms of visual and audio now, especially human speech recognition. We have a lot of, actually, I feel like I should have implemented it for this meeting. Well, I'm going to do it now, but so now we have live auto transcription. Should have done that earlier, just in case we have anyone who has hearing related disabilities. But yeah, so this speech to text recognition is at least partially AI based and is using vast amounts of data about human speech to basically create this text transcript live of our conversation. Again, apologies for not implementing it sooner. There are even social applications to artificial intelligence. There are algorithms and data that can be collected, that is being collected on social media platforms that can possibly even predict human behaviors, human emotions. There's some talk of using predictive AI models to tell if people are having maybe mental health issues or thoughts of harming themselves, and possibly using that to intervene in a positive way to help people and potentially save lives, because it relies on a lot of complex data and sorting through it in real time to try to figure out patterns that might lead to these outcomes that we might want to try to prevent. So and that obviously that type of stuff, big data, collecting a lot of data on people and running it through computer models and AI models and predictive stuff gets into some ethical and privacy issues as well, which is another big aspect of this discussion. So this was, I thought, very relevant and just had come out recently in the past a little less than a week. And perhaps some of you have heard of this, but one thing that is becoming more common is that there are AI programs, AI software that can write computer code and can actually run computer code and optimize it over time by iteratively running it and going over it. And even such to the point where there are some AI software writing programs where you can tell the software what you want it to do in terms of coding, and it can approximate and come up with a product that will try to do that. And it's not perfect yet, but there is a lot of progress being made. And that's one thing where what some people are predicting is that as AI gets better at software coding, we might see this exponential increase where super intelligent and efficient coding might lead to more improvements in the AI itself, and it becomes this positive feedback loop of improvement, and which leads to further improvement. And that's one of the ways that people are concerned and hopeful that the AI improvements will just increase more rapidly over time. So I see, I'm going to just address some things in the chat. Yeah, just some comments on what everybody shared. So thanks everybody for sharing and commenting. I'm going to go to the next slide. Okay, so, and this is kind of just opening it up for, I guess, before we do this, I did want to address for those of you who are not as familiar with these concepts and ideas. So a lot of these AI things that we're talking about, these customer service bots, even things like self-driving cars, different problem-solving programs, they're all generally, and the ones that are playing like Go and other games, they are still considered narrow AI because they are only good at one or a certain group of tasks. What is kind of the holy grail of AI and possibly one of the most interesting and exciting, and has, I would say, both the most potential for really amazing improvements, but also some potential concerns, is what is called a artificial general intelligence, which would be an artificial intelligence that mimics a human's full reasoning and cognitive abilities to address multiple problems, to have conversations, to be shown new situations and events and challenges, and be able to on the fly use their existing knowledge database, maybe even reference data on the internet, but all real time, and very quickly come up with real time responses to those stimuli, challenges, and issues. And if we get to the point where there is a artificial general intelligence that is the level of a human, like that will signal a very incredible technological turning point. Actually, and if you're interested in learning more, it's commonly referred to as the singularity, but that is the point at which artificial general intelligence at least equals human intelligence. And at that point, it's theorized that it will rapidly become better and more efficient and intelligent at all areas that humans interact with and address. And that could have profound implications for humans as a species, could have very positive outcomes. So that's what this last like little bit of the discussion is like, what does AI, both narrow and possibly a general AI, if we get there, what does it mean for jobs? What does it mean for creative outlets, art, music? What does it mean for our understanding of the world through science, physics, solving the problems that we face? What does it mean for humanity in general? So I just wanted to open it up then for more discussion about these topics. So feel free to unmute or share in chat or both.
Hey,
So,
Mark.
oh,
No, you go first.
so just to nerd out a bit, this is literally one of my favorite subjects. And I just did a capstone class, and this was literally the paper I just finished writing yesterday. And I had to address almost all of these bullet points here. For jobs, I think that Stephanie hit on it about reskilling and just being open. So that's definitely something to think about. But a lot of the research I found did point to like, and I've read like a lot of different places, and it seems like everyone's pointing at like 2030 as if this is like the turnaround year. If we don't get more active as humankind, we might get left in the dust. And so as far as jobs go, I think what it means for the future is we better figure it out. And, maybe they should put some limitations on things, but I think, I don't know, I hate to be one of those people. I don't know, I think we might have an issue on our hands.
Thank you for sharing. I agree. Yeah, and that's a lot of people are saying that, we need to have more oversight, government oversight in the area, especially of general AI development or AI systems that could potentially have access or significant impacts on, major areas of the world, the economy, humanity. And maybe, there should be some sort of international governing or monitoring body on artificial intelligence, just to make sure that it doesn't get away from us in a way that could be significantly detrimental to our survival or just our ability to thrive on this planet. So thank you. Derek, did you want to go?
I was just going to comment on my chat posting about the generational gap, like baby boomers, Generation X. A lot of people don't trust the AI process. I mean, millennials love it and feel that that's going to take us to the next level in the future. But there's just going to be a lot of hesitancy with us trying to roll that out and in a full thrust type of manner. I just think that needs to be like, articulated and put into the process of, if we're going to move forward with this kind of a process, we need to have everyone on deck and willing to be a part of that process. But yeah, it's just, I'm thinking about my mom, my dad, baby boomers that are just like, no, like I can barely have a smartphone right now. Like, oh, how do I want to have, an AI system that I communicate with when I'm used to just picking up the phone, whether it be a rotary dial phone or a dial tone and talk to a live human being. So I know there's going to be issues with that, but me personally, I mean, I love the technology. Technology is going to be our future. So yeah, that's all I had to say.
Thank you, Derek. Yeah, there is definitely a generational gap. And another gap that is with, I would say, AI, computer technology, many different technologies that have the potential to improve our lives, improve society. There's a gap, there's a socioeconomic gap as well. Those who have the access to education, to training, to information and resources like internet connectivity, computers, they're going to be even more benefited by these technology transitions that we are experiencing. And those who don't have access to all of those resources are going to be further left behind unless, you know, we make an effort as a society to help them get caught up or provide other assistance to them. So, you know, that's another trend I think that we're seeing play out, not just in AI, computer technology, but many types of technology that we're seeing come into play. Sharon, or sorry, am I pronouncing that right? Yeah, no, you could feel free to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole. It's really interesting, and that you just had your capstone project and that it was so related to this. That's, like I said, that I'm not an expert in any of these areas by any means, but I do spend a fair amount of my free time watching YouTube videos and TED Talks and reading articles and just trying to stay up on it because I do find it very fascinating. And I think that, yeah, it's good to stay informed on this.
I agree, absolutely.
Bill, Stephanie, Uni. Oh,
Yeah. I mean,
Go
go ahead. You can go ahead.
go ahead, Bill.
I work with data, so I started programming and I'm a report developer, so I work in data. So this is a big topic for me. And also I'm going for my degree in web and mobile app development. So that's my degree. Jobs are going to just grow from here. And there is a huge lack of skill set for those jobs within the United States. And we are a service economy right now. We don't produce much of anything, but what we do produce is information and data is huge, and data is going to be the next big economy. And who controls that data is going to be the people who are able to create AI that do the stuff that we need to find the data and to get the information to people that need it to make decisions. So that's going to be the next more industry out there. And reskilling and even developing tools that help bridge that generational gap with people who don't have the technical skills. That's kind of the job people that have those skills to do. There are tools out there like Alteryx that you don't need to code. They're just flow and drop things to pull in data and spit out reports. So there's many different tools that people are making and thinking about to kind of bridge that knowledge gap. And that's what I would say about that.
Thanks, Bill.
I was just going to share about gamification in training and development. I think that's a big one that comes to mind when I think of AI. I'm really excited about learning more how to design games for adult learning because I'm studying instructional design. I currently teach adults. So I think that's what I'm really interested in, to learn how games in the training environment would help bridge that gap between generations.
Yeah, that's awesome, Stephanie. That's another one of my little side interests as well, as gamification and education and adaptive learning as well, which I think those two together really fit well with AI. So if we have, AI platforms that, I think the gamification, because it's creating more of an intrinsic motivation to especially dive into challenging or sometimes what could be considered boring or tedious topics or subjects. If you can make it engaging and fun, then I think students are much more likely to want to do it and retain that information. If you're having a positive experience, you're much more likely to retain information than if you're having a negative experience in learning. So yeah, I'm really excited. I love that whole area, like edutainment, figuring out how to make education entertaining as well and engaging. So yeah, I think that's a great field, and I hope we see more of that, more gamification, both in, you know, K through 12 higher education and training, and then, you know, maybe bring in that AI component and adaptive learning so that each person gets a tailored experience for their learning style, their speed of progression. So thank you for sharing. Uni, did you wanna, I saw you unmute a couple times.
Sorry.
You're all
Can you
right?
hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So a few years ago, we were in the process of a go live, bringing a new hospital on board, and what some senior members in my team, what they came up with was creating kind of like our cartoon training session. And within that training session, we created simple one-page job aids so that they went from like a manual process to an integrated process, and they would see when, if they were scanned this, or if they received this specimen, if they collected it this way, if this went to the lab, precisely what their system will look like at each point. And that really helped us out a lot, because prior to that particular go live, we were getting, with any new acquisition, about an additional 75 to 90 tickets a day. And once they did that, with that particular go live, we were only getting an increment of about 25 to 30 tickets. So it's also the approach on how you can engage the person, and like was being said, you know, make it interesting, get them to really grasp the information, but also make it in a way that's simple enough so that they can retain the information.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Uni. I'm going to launch another poll. Let's see. This is just asking, from your experience, I guess, what we've talked about, what maybe your existing knowledge, do you think that artificial intelligence and machine learning will be mostly beneficial for humanity, mostly detrimental or harmful for humanity, roughly equally harmful and beneficial, or it's too soon to tell, or you're not sure? Just curious on what the thoughts are of those of you in attendance. Cool. All right, thanks for sharing. Does anybody want to talk about their thoughts on what they responded?
Okay. So I'll say this. I highly am all about technology and our future and what it's going to do for our immediate needs, because we always want more, we always want it bigger. But I think it's going to be a huge problem. I do. I think there's no regulations. Right now, they've got Amazon won't even put out the numbers on realistically how much more efficient the robots are to the humans, even though it's obvious, you know, but they don't even want to do that because they don't even want to have people get scared. Like, you've got McDonald's, they're making McDonald's now where, you know, you show up and, you know, the bot does all the work, and, you know, the human puts salt and pepper on the fries. You know, they're slowly pulling people out of these jobs. So they were like, okay, we've got an answer to your question. You want $15 an hour to work at Wendy's? Fine. We'll have 2 humans work there, though. I think that creates an issue. And although my mindset is to reskill, and I'm definitely pushing it to my friends and all their children and anyone else I know, I can say some people are unfortunately sometimes stuck in their their mind frame. And I think someone touched on baby boomers, but not just them. You know, some people just don't, you know, want to do those type of things, in which case I don't think there's going to be many options available. I don't think there's any, there's nothing put in place as of now to mandate a company gives, you know, certain preference to humans. Like they don't have like a ratio, like for every 2 robots, we'll keep 5 humans employed. Obviously, they get a lot more work done for the robots. I get it, but there's not much that's gonna make them, you know, keep us working. And even though I'm going into IT, you know, in a little bit, my job might then again be replaceable. So I think Bill touched on that earlier. But yeah, and again, back to the reskilling, I get it, but I feel that in the long run, we're going to have a huge problem. Like creativity, I don't think that there's a lot of room for creativity when a bot was your teacher and told you exactly what to think and how to think. And there's no real room for interpretation because it's either it fits in this box or it doesn't. I don't know. I think that's how I put it all together with my crystal ball that I looked through.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, those are certainly some concerns. And yeah, as you said, we're already seeing this type of replacement with automation in terms of bots, you know, robots or other machines that can do these tasks of humans. And I know you said, I just wanted to touch on, you know, the creativity aspect. And that's something that with narrow artificial intelligence and mechanization, machine learning, we don't really see creativity as something that exists in that realm right now. Although there are some really interesting things. There are some paintings that have been completely done by artificial intelligences, but what they did is they said, hey, look at all of this art that like exists. And then they told the AI, okay, like now create something new using what you learned from observing all of these paintings. And you can look it up, like artificial intelligence art, and it's actually some of it's both beautiful and kind of a little bit creepy. But you know, there is not currently an artificial intelligence that will just decide that, you know, I want to create something, like I want to create art. Like that would be if we see a general artificial intelligence. But once we do see a general artificial intelligence, it's not out of the realm of possibility or probability that it will have creativity abilities similar to humans, in that it could observe many different things and then try to combine those ideas or patterns in a new way to come up with something new, which is essentially what creativity is usually about. You know, we humans have a lot of knowledge, a diversity of knowledge stored in our brains, and then sometimes we put it together in unexpected and new ways. So yeah, and that's going to be really interesting if, you know, robots are more creative than, or not robots, but if artificial intelligences are more creative than humans at some point in the future, then like, what does that mean for humanity? That's why the title of this presentation, there's many books and talks and stuff that say, will a general artificial intelligence be humanity's last invention? Because after that, the general artificial intelligence, as it continues to improve itself and grow and get smarter, vastly smarter than humans, it will essentially be able to come up with new ideas and inventions and you know, and art and creativity more so than humans. That, you know, what will our place then be in the world? So I saw you unmute. Let me throw it over to you.
I think the most important things with AI and machine learning is ethics and how we apply ethics to what we build. And that's a new frontier. And the scariest thing about AI and machine learning is that we sometimes have biases that we transfer over to the machines that were unintended. And sometimes that has caused disastrous results already. or funny results depending on which YouTube you watch about selecting ice cream flavors. They had AI do that, and they selected some horrifying ice cream flavors, but they picked from every word in human language. So there's unintended results of negative consequences, but I think it all depends on us, and there are many major companies that have dedicated to building ethical AIs out there. The problem is the rogue creators of AI, and as Sharon put it, companies aren't beholden to keep human capital when they can acquire machine capital in their place, but then reskilling and learning how to program them or work with these computers becomes paramount for us, really.
Thank you, Bill.
I'll share. Oh, I just drew a blank. Oh, there it goes. I think from my perspective, I think to piggyback off of what Sharon said, is teaching our younger generation how to problem solve or teaching them critical thinking skills. If we have robots and machines that do all of these things for them, we don't really have to teach them how to do those things. And they may run into problems down the line because they don't have those critical thinking skills or, the creativity to, figure things out because we didn't teach them those fundamental skills earlier on in life. So I voted for it. It's equally harmful and beneficial. I think there are some amazing things that we're going to benefit from AI, but I do have that hesitation about what skill set are the younger generation really going to be left with when they don't have to really think about anything.
Thank you for sharing, Stephanie. I guess I didn't realize that we're almost to the end of our allotted time. I did want to share one thing, and it's really, I can't remember if it was in one of the videos that I shared, but if you are interested, check out human AI cooperation. I think that was the one video that I shared, but human AI cooperation, actually Gary Kasparov, after he was defeated by Deep Blue, and now like chess AI can defeat any human, like any advanced chess AI will like almost always beat a human, or if they're really good and based on the situation, it'll come to a draw. Like most actually very high level chess games come to a draw if both players are highly skilled and knowledgeable. But Gary Kasparov actually came up with a new form of chess. I think one of them was like changing the rules a little bit, like what you can and can't do with pieces. But another thing is that he figured out a way for humans and AI to team up. So you have a human player and a AI chess player that are on the same team, and the two of them together can beat a singular chess AI or a singular human. So now they're playing matches where it's one human and a chess AI versus another human and a chess AI, and it's, that becomes like a more fair competition. So there's this whole idea of 4D chess. Yeah, that'd be really interesting. I'm sure there are probably programs to do 4D chess as well.
Back in time and forward in time. Yeah. So it's a
Yeah.
game out there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there's this, I think there's a really promising future, and that's something that a lot of people who are thinking about this issue say, that we need to figure out ways to synergize currently what humans can do better than AI and what AI can do better than humans, and work together to solve problems and create better solutions and a better world together. So I'm hopeful that we'll move in that direction, and hopefully we don't open Pandora's box and release some sort of AI that does not serve our best interest into the world, as has been prophesized or fictionalized in many books and movies, which I would say that's at the very extreme, but not entirely impossible, depending on how things evolve. But hopefully when we get an artificial general intelligence, and if it's much smarter than us, hopefully it does not, that we are selfishness or things like that. So I'm going to move on to, well, I think we've pretty much done like questions and comments this last little bit. And just in case, I think, Bill, you're in the program. Was that anybody who wasn't already in the honors program? I just wanted to quickly go over this or see if you had any questions about the honors program and what it entails. This is just a real quick summary of what the program is about, what the requirements are. And there is an application. You can email me. I'll put my email in the chat. It's just Marc, M-A-R-C dot my last name, Hnytka at uagc.edu. And I can get you an application. The application should be available online. And there's also the UAGC honors program website and the UAGC honors at uagc.edu email where you can get more information. But yeah, if you're watching this and you're not in the honors program, or if you're thinking about joining, we'd love to have you. These are the types of events that we do. And we're so happy to have such wonderful, intelligent, engaged students come to these events, and we have some great discussions and just try to expand and enhance your educational experience at UAGC. So we look forward to talking to you in the future. And thanks everybody who came, Bill, Stephanie, Sharon, Sharon. I feel like I'm mispronouncing that. But Sharon, thank you. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Thank you.
Thank you.